So Activision Microsoft is back in the news this morning as the FTC is again trying to block the deal. And I'm kind of curious of what people think about it because it is a complex answer to me, right? So Microsoft obviously wants to buy Activision Blizzard for the stable of games that they have to put onto Game Pass, right? And expand Game Pass and the value there. And, you have, I think, obviously Call of Duty, the biggest part of that, which is a success as a games as a service. You play that game. There's people who only play that game and don't play anything else. And then I think you have some lesser things like Diablo and there's a whole lot of games. Games. We're gamers. We can shortcut this. But there's a problem here is Microsoft's tried to do this internally, right? From Halo, attempt, right, was supposed to be games as a service this round and didn't really take off that way. We've seen Bethesda with Starfield and Redfall both this year not really be the hits that drive a big adoption of Game Pass. And so Microsoft's trying to find something. And so instead of paying for it on the open market and competing for that, exclusivity, which I don't like exclusivity either. Again, this is all really like a bunch of positives and negatives. But right, they're not paying for that exclusivity. They just want to buy their way into it by buying it up front. And when they do that, what they do is they actually compress the value of everything else in the open market long term, right? Because they're saying, we don't need those things on our platform. We have this thing on our platform. And we're not going to compete for other things on our platform because we're buying those things and making them inside our own house. So think about if Game Pass was nothing but the games that were made by Microsoft, everybody who was getting a Game Pass deal no longer is getting a Game Pass deal. Now, that may be for the better, that may be for the worse. I'm a Game Pass subscriber. I like Game Pass. So how does this affect consumers? Right? That's the question. Long term, I think there's worries about what I just described. Short term, it's awesome, right? Game Pass is a great deal. Between Game Pass and Steam, I don't really buy a lot of other games. And it's only the Sony exclusives that I would buy on Sony. And that's, again, I'm not a fan of exclusives, but that's why. So, how does that fall out? And then, Activision Blizzard is a well-known toxic environment, right? A lot of lawsuits over there. Now, is Microsoft's inability to make Halo a games as a service part of the function that they treat people humanely and don't overwork them and drive them to the bone like Activision does? The Call of Duty stuff, the little snide comment at the Game Awards brought out kind of a lot of frustration out of developers for the Call of Duty series because they're going through a lot of stuff and they don't need to hear that. Not at an event like that. And then there's a whole cloud gaming thing. I actually like cloud gaming. I live in a place where I have really good internet, and I'm close to their data centers, being here in Seattle. So my experience on cloud gaming is it's magical. You can just jump in and play something and try it out without even installing it, which has a whole host of other things. I worry about that probably more than anything. So what does that, what do people feel about that, right? How is that going to impact long term? Are you guys for the merger or against the merger? I don't think it's a clear, hey, this is totally bad or this is totally good. And I understand Microsoft competing against Sony and they need something. But they've bought so much and they've yet to execute on it. And that's like Google buying a bunch of companies and just closing them down, right? That's not a positive for the industry. Not to say that Microsoft's closing studios down. They're not. They've been pretty good about that. But equally, under their leadership, have we seen the success those studios had prior to coming to Microsoft, right? That's a worry. I don't know. That's my Monday morning. I don't know. I can go a lot of different ways. Curious. Let me know.